All right, so I want to discuss what researchers have decided are 6 keys for reading success for native English readers or natural, in your native language reading. But I believe that second language students need to know these skills and strategies and this information also. All right, so these are skills that can be taught to students so that their reading can improve, which is the good part about it. All right, and I apologize because I do not remember who I originally got this information from, so I can't give anyone credit, but I do know it's pretty common research out there nowadays anyway. Okay, so one of the first key is to use background knowledge. Okay, now here's the trick. In reading, there are actually 2 backgrounds that are involved. One is your experience as the reader. Your experience counts. The way that, your life experience, the way that you interpret the words on the page, that counts. Okay, may not be exactly what the author expected. Doesn't matter. It still counts, and you should bring that experience. The other one, the other background is the author's background. So the author's background is going to affect how he or she writes. So you need to think for a minute, where did this author come from? Is this author highly educated? Are they trying to write in an educated way, or are they just trying to write for entertainment's sake? If they don't have the degrees, then writing just for entertainment's sake usually is considered fine, that kind of stuff. And that gets into further literacy evaluation and information literacy, but using background knowledge. The next key is visualizing. Okay, the next key to successful reading is visualizing while you read. So create a picture in your brain of what you're reading. And that's why we're so disappointed when we go to movies about that were books originally, but then they became movies, because we picture them in our brain as we're reading. We picture what's happening, and that's what's going. So we get disappointed when the producer, director, actor's idea is different from what the picture was we had in our brain. So as you're reading, you should ask yourself, what do I think this looks like? What if I were really there standing in front of where I'm reading about, what would it look like? What would be happening? What would people be doing? What's going on? That picturing in your brain at the same time as you're doing the cognitive, analysis of the words and reading and so forth, that it causes your brain to multitask in a successful and useful way, not in a way that is distracting it. Okay, so it's a very successful method. And as a teacher, I use it actually as a way to test comprehension. So after students have read something, I will ask them to draw what they've read, because I don't care at all what the drawing looks like. I have no concern at all about what it looks like, but I want to know if they really understood what they read and they can draw what they read. The third key is questioning yourself as you read. Good readers ask themselves questions before they read, as they read, and after they read. Ask questions about your reading as you're reading it. Okay, and this creates mailboxes where your brain can file information. Okay, so it's important to ask those questions ahead of time. Ask your question, what does this mean? All right, and partly, again, it's the brain multitasking. It's the brain getting involved in being active and not just passive. I find that when I'm just sitting there reading words on the paper or reading words on my Kindle or on my computer, as it would be, sometimes I can go pages and pages and not have any memory of what I just read, and that's because I haven't engaged in it. And one way to engage yourself in it is to ask your questions, okay, about what you're reading. And you don't have to be able to answer your questions 100%. Just the actual aspect of asking the question is the important part. If you can answer them, great. But even if you can't answer the question, the asking of the question is the important part. You can also theoretically, okay, ask the author a question. You know, you can say, well, why did she use that word there? You know, why did she use the word sacrament, if that's the word she used? So you can ask the author a question because generally speaking, reading is supposed to be a conversation between you and the author, all right? And so it's okay to ask the author a question. Obviously, they're not, you know, we're not talking about really sending them an email or really sending them a letter or really calling them up. But just ask them a question in your brain, and the act, you know, of making it of active communication assists and improves your reading. The fourth key: good readers accept ambiguity and read on. Okay, accept ambiguity and read on. Well, what's ambiguity? Ambiguity is uncertainness. It's the idea that something's inexact. I think this may mean this, but I'm not 100% sure. Well, if you think it's that and you really don't know and you don't want to, you know, don't stop every 10 seconds to look up a word in a dictionary or something. And actually, again, now going back to Kindles, all I got to do is touch it with my finger and I can get the definition. But even then, I don't stop and look up every word, because most words are not essential to the overall meaning of the reading. And it's more important to just keep reading, because when we stop, you know, there's that old physics theory that it's harder to get something to go in motion than it is, you know, once something is moving, it uses less energy. So keep moving and obey the laws of physics. Don't stop your reading. Understand, it's important that ESL, EFL readers understand all readers struggle. It doesn't matter if they're PhDs with multiple PhDs. It doesn't matter who they are. All readers struggle. They all run into some word that they don't know. They run into some concept, some background, some cultural or slang that they don't know. All readers struggle. Confusion is natural in reading. Okay, that's important. Confusion is natural in reading. However, the good readers just keep on reading. They don't stop when they get confused. They don't stop when they don't understand every single thing. It's really important. Good readers keep on reading. The fifth key for reading success is that good readers search for connections within the story. Okay, so maybe we just said that they keep on reading even if they don't totally understand something. And actually, I should use the example that I use in movies. You know, movies often today start with flashbacks, right? So you sit down and they're showing you something and you have no idea what they're showing you for the first 5 minutes. And then they go back and they start at the beginning and start telling you the whole story. Well, you don't walk out of the movie theater as soon as you don't understand something. You have confidence that whatever is they have shown you now is going to connect and make sense with something they're going to show you later. Well, that's the same thing for reading. You know, something that shows up in one paragraph, a good writer, a good author is going to provide explanation and interaction and connections with later on in the writing. Okay, not 100%, but usually that's what happens. So if you're struggling to understand something, if you keep reading, it's very possible the author is going to explain it or provide clues that will give you enough information to explain it later on. Okay, so how does something written later in the article relate to something written earlier? The sixth key is to read selectively. And ESL, EFL learners just find that really fascinating because they have a feeling that they should understand every word on the page, and that they should understand every multiple interpretations of what's on the page, and they should have detailed comprehension of what's on the page. And basically that's not true. Essentially, human beings are very egocentric, and we read for our own personal reasons. So what's your purpose for reading it? Is your purpose for reading it to answer questions for a test? Well, then you're going to look for the big ideas, the titles, read under the headings and subtitles. And is your purpose reading for enjoyment? Well, then you can skip whole sections, you can just skim if you want. Is your purpose reading because you have to fill out an application? Well, then you're going to have to read every single word, make sure you understand every single word, and that you answer, fill out the appropriate application. So what's your purpose for reading? And then you're going to read to fulfill that purpose. You don't have to read to fulfill every single purpose. And it's kind of hard. I think part of the problem of this is that when we do it for ourselves, we automatically know, we just automatically do everything for our own purposes, generally speaking. But with learners, with students, as a teacher, we try to teach them different purposes, and then somehow they think that every time they need to learn all of those purposes and apply all of those skills and strategies and purposes to every single reading. And you just can't. Good readers, research says good readers read selectively. They skip here and they skim there, and then they read in very detail in certain sections, but they don't apply, detailed reading to everything equally. All right? So I hope you found this encouraging, and I hope this helps you teach your students.